Alright, e-learning and blended learning is the focus of opener number 2. These types of learning have existed for centuries, just in different forms. Technology has allowed time and distance to exist between learners and instructors all the way back to when writing was invented. Then came the printing press, the telegraph, the radio, TV, computers, and of course now the internet. When we don't know the answer to something, often our first response is just Google it. With each wave of new technology, educators make promises regarding the impact on education. However, as much as we want to debate, there is no one best technology or one best instructional practice for everyone, but rather a combination of those that make our learning most effective. Two main things that we gathered from this chapter were e-learning opportunities, such as Knot School, the Florida Virtual School, and million student universities that are part of international e-learning. Another term for this is Massive Open Online Courses, or MOOC. Secondly, the author emphasizes online learning games, things like Study Island or Free Rice specifically is one that he mentioned. This one is even designed to help those less fortunate. And the Free Rice and Study Island, the goal with both of those was to improve ACT or SAT scores for students.
All right, let's talk about massive open online courses, also known as MOOCs for short. MOOCs have become a big trend in the last just few years, providing a way for people to take courses, usually college courses, but there's some high schools that offer them too, online. Because they're so new, there's not one set definition for what they are, but they usually have a few things in common. Many of them come from traditional learning institutions like colleges and universities, and in many cases they're verbatim college online courses. They're the equivalent of an in-person course just offered online. Usually, most of these do not charge students to take the courses, but at the same time, they don't give students college credit for them. Some of them offer some certificate programs and things like that, but that's pretty much it. You can take the course to enrich your own understanding, but as a general rule, you're not going to get a college credit for taking that same course. But basically, it is a perfect opportunity for you to audit a college course that you might not normally be able to take, and you can do it in the comfort of your own home. You can audit a class sitting in your underwear, and a lot of traditional colleges, they kind of tend to discourage that. Stanford University is the college that's most associated with MOOCs because they were the breeding ground for one of the more popular MOOCs called Coursera. So that's what we're looking at right here. They developed partnerships with Penn, Princeton, University of Michigan, other institutions that bring free university content to the masses. So you can see also, Rice, we've got University of Winchester here, and a really diverse set of course offerings here. You can take the history of rock, you can take analytical chemistry, you can take useful genetics, randomness, chance and free will, Beethoven's piano sonatas. I mean, you really get a sense of just the broad range of different courses that you can take online here. And these are all offered for free. Coursera's been in the news recently because they've had a lot of discussion lately about how their funding model is going to be, that they're trying to figure out a way to monetize what they're offering without charging students necessarily. So they're charging licensing fees to other universities, thinking about maybe a premium model where students can take a certain set number of courses, maybe get some sort of credit or certificate program for that, maybe even advertising on the site. Now, another fairly popular MOOC is this one right here called edX. And this was kind of a response by MIT to the that kind of the commercialization that they saw with some of the other MOOCs, including Coursera. So they set up this nonprofit, and they established connections with Harvard, UC Berkeley, Texas, Georgetown, some of these other schools. And you can see some of them listed here as well. And they also offer a really wide kind of range of classes that you can take. And, you know, when you're in these classes, you're part of an online community, but a lot of these classes are, you know, that's the M part, the massive. There's tons and tons of people who are taking these classes. And there was kind of a dust up in the media not that long ago because one of the platforms, I want to say it was Coursera here, they held a class about having massively online courses, and the class was a total disaster. They tried to use like Google Spreadsheets to have students sign up for discussion groups, and Google Spreadsheets limits the number of active users to 50, and there were like thousands of people in this class. So the spreadsheet was constantly locked, and even when somebody was able to get into it, people were deleting names, putting in extra spaces. It was total chaos. And it was chaos with other aspects of the class too, and they had to kind of shut it down and reevaluate their model for how they were going to do that. So it's kind of a real public, spectacular failure on the part of these folks, and they're going back to the drawing board to try to figure out how they can improve their model. Okay, so we also have, in addition to edX, we have Udacity. And that's a platform that also has its roots in Stanford, and it's mostly focused on computer science. There's also some business classes, some math, but most of it just comes right back down to the computer science aspect. And this one's a little bit different because it offers an opportunity to earn free certifications that will show, you know, where you fell in that class, how successful you were with the course that you took. And there's also, you can actually see it right here, where you can pay $150 and you can earn college credits through the partnership between Udacity and San Jose State. Okay. And finally, we have this one you guys are probably familiar with. In addition to using Blackboard as a central part of all of the traditional face-to-face courses, or most of the traditional face-to-face courses here at U of L, U of L also offers distance education classes, online courses. And many of those classes rely solely on Blackboard as like the means for delivering instruction, having class discussions, and providing instructor feedback. I've personally have taken multiple online classes and participated in online education seminars here at U of L. And the thing about online classes is you do lack the human connection, and you lose the kind of connections that you'd have in a traditional classroom. And you also have to be really, really self-motivated. It's really not the sort of thing that you want to do if you're a procrastinator, and I am kind of guilty of that. Because you really have to kind of stick to your targets or you're going to get crushed in these classes. But for some folks, you know, if you work in a schedule that makes it really difficult to take classes, or I had fellow students who had to travel for work, or one woman who deployed across the country with her military husband but wanted to finish up some classes at U of L. I mean, these are, you know, kind of a godsend. So it's a really successful way to deliver instruction to people who, for whatever reason, are not able to attend traditional classroom courses. And that's what all of the MOOCs are.
All right, so here we're going to look at Study Island, which is one example of an online learning game. They have some videos up here at the top. We're on our main login page, but if you go over here, Here at the top, some video testimonials. It gives you a study island overview, a lot of stuff about standards-based instruction and specific interventions for special education students, or ELL. The really nice thing about it from an instructor standpoint is it's easy to monitor with real-time data, and you get progress reports for each student. So there are rigorous and engaging content involved for students of all ages, and the ability to differentiate instruction so that every student is working at their own pace.
All right, and here we have Free Rice. That's an online learning game. It was started by a guy from Indiana as a way to improve his son's SAT scores. It's funded by advertising, so what you can see here is there's advertising down here at the bottom of the page, and each time that you click on a new thing, new advertisements come up, and those advertisements fund the 10 grains of rice that go in here, and those grains of rice are then donated to the World Food Program in order to help end program. And it keeps track of your level so you can see where you're at. You can also change your level, and then you can track how much rice you have donated based on the different answers that you've given. And like I said, each time that you click, a new advertisement comes up. So that's what sponsors it. It's a free game. It helps with general vocabulary for the regular population, but also can help college-bound kids with their verbal scores. Yeah.
Alright, and here we have Brain Pop, which is another online learning game. So you'll see at the first, it's all divided into different content areas. So if we just click on the math one here for the heck of it, it will come up with different subjects within the math content for different areas that you might need help with. So let's look at the algebra one here. And let's say that I need to know more about two-step equations. So I'm going to go in here, and over here on the side it's going to give me an explanation of what's going on. This is a video right next to it here, so we can play through the video, and then at the end there are activities that are based on the information being taught. So this is a great way for remediation if students need some extra help with the content that you're covering in class and not necessarily just practice problems.
This next page is not a game, but it goes to a lot of what the chapter was talking about the continuous learning. Everybody's always learning, and it doesn't always happen in a traditional classroom. In fact, it almost never happens in a traditional classroom. A lot of the learning that we do is kind of an on-demand sort of learning. So I need to know how to do something, I go to the internet and I Google it, or I use a resource like WikiHow. And WikiHow gives us step-by-step instructions on how to do all sorts of different things. So one thing that I might want to know how to do is say how to change oil in a car. And you can do the step-by-step with illustrations on exactly how to go through that process. You can learn how to do pretty much anything on this website, especially like the sorts of hands-on do-it-yourself home projects and things like that. So it's a really valuable resource for the kind of learning that you do just in the real-world day-to-day sort of thing.
Okay, so this pretty much wraps up our discussion on e-learning and blended learning. Basically, e-learning and blended learning provide an opportunity for individualized instruction. Students can't hide behind their more vocal peers in this case, and they must have self-initiative to take responsibility for their own learning. This makes for innovative, engaging, and personalized learning experiences.
Bonk makes a lot of this e-learning and blended learning being the wave of the future, and how all education is likely to be conducted in the future. This is something that has been said many times about many other different types of technologies, and while it may be true that education may start moving in this direction, it's likely to continue to be combined with traditional face-to-face learning, teacher-student interactions,
And there are a lot of other different types of teaching technologies that are likely to be used in addition to or in combination with the e-learning and blended learning.